Hey MechaniChics, today we're working on a Husqvarna and the automatic compression release is bad. Spoilers! So I wanted to let you know how to take that apart so that you can get to it. Obviously you see the engine is missing, but we had to start somewhere, right? Taking the hood off is the first thing. You're going to pop that hood off and you're going to disengage the headlights with a plug that looks like this. Okay? And then you're going to remove the side panels. And they have latches on them on the side, so you're going to simply lift up and pull out. There is a round plug that goes right here that you can pull out later with some pliers when you're ready to put these back in. And then the next obvious thing would be to remove the pulley off the bottom of the engine. This pulley has a bolt in the bottom that is 5/8 on the end, and it goes through here like so. You're going to remove that and drop the pulley down. It will sit on the deck front arm right here if you don't have the deck all the way down, so make sure that you take the deck all the way to the bottom and then the pulley will fall off. The next thing you're going to do for the engine is unplug the wiring harness right here, and then you're also going to use a 7/16 if it's straight from the factory to take off the starter wire, and then we're going to remove the bolts that are on the exhaust manifold with an Allen wrench, and I believe, check and make sure, this was, yes indeed, the 5/64. Take both of those loose off this side of the engine. I left the intake on this side of the engine, but you are going to need a 5/16 to remove the throttle cable from the throttle plate. Also take the gasoline line off of the carburetor, off the intake, because obviously you don't want gas in there, but you're going to squeeze this clamp and slide it down to here, and then just wiggle it to break it free, and then make sure that it's above the fuel level in your tank. And since this one goes way above the tank, we're fine. We just tucked it in there. And then you're ready to remove the bolts. And so there are only 4 bolts that hold the engine on, and they are either 1/2 inch or 9/16. They're 9/16. And you have to put your impact driver underneath here, impact wrench, and with an extension, and take all 4 of those bolts out, and your engine is clear. So we pick it up, move it to a place where we can work on it, drain out some of the oil. I was worried about there being metal shavings, so I took the entire drain plug off the bottom here, right from here. Okay, and then we had to take out the bolts that held it on. Those were all 1/2 inch bolts, and where did I put them? Here they are. These are the 1/2 inch bolts that came out of the bottom of the crankshaft sump, or some people call it the wow, I just lost my words. The crankshaft. This part right here. It's the bottom of the engine. You know what? The Australians call it the sump, and I'm just going to leave it at that. The sump. Alright, make sure that you leave the plate on that sits right here. Leave those 3 bolts in there for right now. You're going to need to put them together when we take it apart. when we put it back together. Alright, sitting on top of the engine on the crankshaft will be your oil slinger, and this one has a solenoid on it that pushes this bar, which controls your throttle on this side. And there's nothing holds it on except centrifugal force, so you just lift that off the crankshaft. You're going to put your oil pump back in here, although I have a new shaft that came with my set. And we are going to have to scrape all the gasket material off of here and all the gasket material off of here. Once we get to this point, we're going to remove our camshaft, making sure that we're not on a compression stroke. We're going to lift that off of there. My set came with tappets, so I'm going to put tappets on it. And to make sure that your valves are properly adjusted, you're going to have to take your valve cover off, which is right up here. And we're looking at the engine upside down. But we've taken the valve cover off, and Leigh Ann is scraping the gasket off of that. I just adjusted the valves a couple of days ago, so this silicone is really fresh. Alright, so we're going to make sure that these rods here and here are properly seated, and we're going to put our tappets in here. This is your tappet right here. And then we're going to slide the camshaft right down on there. Now notice you have to have the timing marks correct. So this timing mark is on the camshaft, this timing mark is on the crankshaft gear. See the little tiny dot right there? Let me see if I can zoom in for you. See that tiny dot? And that tiny dot, they have to be in the same exact tooth. If they aren't, the engine won't run. So make sure that you turn the crankshaft all the way so that those two marks will line up. And yes, make sure you take the spark plug out when you're turning the engine. Otherwise the compression will be difficult to turn through. Alright, so what happened to the old camshaft is that this nice little flappy-doo right here is called the automatic compression release. It broke. This is the other piece of it right here. Yep. So it goes in that hole right there. And as you can see right through it except for the oil dot on the other side. So it sits here and this groove one-handed automatic compression release. There we go. Alright, so its job is to sit here and open when you are at low speed RPMs, and that's so that when you are cranking the engine, it will pop open one of the valves to release a little bit of the compression during compression stroke so that your starter, in this case, because this is an electric start engine, does not have to strain so hard to get it to turn over. And when this breaks, the engine will turn over and then hit compression stroke and groan. The starter will do its best. It'll pull the battery way down and it will not it will not crank. So that's how you know that it is the automatic compression release. It runs great once it's running, but it just does not, it struggles on compression stroke to turn over. Now a lot of times that can also be the valves, so we always check the valves first because that's a lot easier adjustment to do, and we can adjust the valves here. But on these single cylinder larger Briggs & Stratton engine, it's almost always going to be your automatic compression release. So this is the one hanging on here. Let's see if I can get it to do its thing. There we go. So that's what it looks like, and as it goes by, it's going to engage that tappet, which is going to push open with the rod, the valve here, and it's going to release just, it's a little bump. Oop. So if you're not unsure whether or not it's the automatic compression release, while the engine is still on, take the valve cover off and just roll it through the strokes with the spark plug out. And if you don't see a little boop, somewhere between second and third stroke, then you definitely know that the automatic compression release is not working. So when we take this off, it does take a little bit of force, but not too much. It will pop off fairly easily. Make sure you scrape all your gasket material off. We're going to put a new oil pump shaft in there. And when we turn this thing back over, we're going to make sure that we take that little plate off underneath here so that we can get this engaged here on the crankshaft. Okay. And then we're going to replace the crankshaft seal, which is down inside of here on the very bottom. That seals it here in this area. And then we're going to button it back up and set it back down on the engine, on the Husqvarna, and do our best to make it run. Oh, don't forget to seal this back up too. So if you got silicone on it, make sure you put silicone back on it. If you got a paper gasket, put the paper gasket back on it after you've adjusted your valves properly. That's a whole nother video, but there's plenty of internet information on adjusting your valves. Don't forget to put in your spark plug too. All right, I hope that was helpful, guys. That is your automatic compression release. Have a great day.